Graham, thank you for your presentation this morning outlining the plans for the Dallas project. Can you tell me a little bit about what you've learned from this morning's session and how that might play into Dallas going forward?
Well, I think I've mostly been reassured by what I've heard this morning. I think that people, I think, understand what we're trying to do and what we're trying to drive towards. And I think there's some specific things I think I'd like to mention as well. I've certainly picked something up from Stephen Johnson this morning from the Department of Health, who was talking a little bit about the way that things that have been done at small scale don't necessarily translate into being able to something you can do at large scale. And I think that's important as a reason for doing what we're trying to do now, that we've got to try and look at these things at scale. I think the second point I picked up as well is around service redesign, and that we're the technology strategy board, so we can look at technology stuff and we can do some technology stuff, but there's a lot going on around innovation in services, and particularly for the public sector, it's about service redesign. And I think that's one of the outcomes of the whole system demonstrator, the kind of things we want to learn from and then put forward again as to if you like, at the next stage. I think the thing I've mostly been involved in as well, I think resonated today as well, which is actually around technical interoperability, and that people have come up to me afterwards and said, yeah, we've been talking about trying to do technical interoperability for quite a while now, that there are standards that will do these things. And so there is the Continual Alliance standards, and then there is the IEEE, there's standards that the Telecare Services Association originally put forward in terms of telecare, and so on and so forth. But that, to try and bring all these things together, that a lot of them are actually paper standards, and you actually need to do things. You need to say, okay, this is what we're actually going to do, and there has to be some kind of inducement, we think, for people to say, okay, we will now do things, bring things together in terms of technical interoperability. That, we hope, will then lead to generate service redesign itself, because you then have to look at, if you're able to achieve more, then you'd have to change the service maybe around things like that. And so there's these drivers in there that we think are the things that we'd like to see push forward. I think the final thing I'd come to as well is around what we're trying to do, and not just concentrating on 2 or 3 long-term conditions, but looking at this bigger agenda. I think the wellness agenda, and also very importantly, being able to look at dementia. I think again that one of the issues that's cropped up around the whole system demonstrator was that dementia wasn't one of the target conditions. We will certainly be interested in including dementia in what we're doing.
Okay. I suppose as a second question, one of the things that occurred to me as you went forward is that you have a very iterative way in which these projects are going to be designed. The open process, the workshop approach, the putting the different bricks of the Lego together in your analogy. In your own mind, do you think you have any sort of preconceived idea as to the nature of the partnerships that are going to be brought together in the way that these Dallas communities are going to actually operate, or or is it very much an open book from your perspective?
It has to be an open book. I think no doubt about that. Obviously, I've got preconceived ideas myself of what I hope will turn out from this process. But the idea is, to start with, you need to get the best people around the table. If you get the best people around the table, best capability, get people thinking about the bigger picture. It's about people, it's about users, it's about carers, it's not only about industry and technology. So that if you realise that you need different things that are going to come into the process, then an open process gives you more opportunity of bringing different groups of people together to maybe deliver something more than I would think of in my own mind.
Okay. So I guess my final question would be, when will you know that Dallas is a success?
Ooh. Well, I'm going to retire in 3 years' time. So I'm hoping that by then I'll be able to say, yeah, that's a success, we've done that. And then you'll watch people then go off and do things in their own right, at scale, and it becomes a mainstream activity, it becomes a normal part of independent living.
Okay, Graham, thank you very much.
Nick, it's a pleasure.